So guys, we are on box number 191. Yoink. Man, I'm not like starting a conspiracy theory, but I have connected two things. I feel very smart. Now, I bet this has been connected long before I did by actual scientists. But I'm like, you know what? I was looking at the Mississippi River Valley because I kind of like researched things for like 1 or 2 days, and I kind of learned more about it, and I switched to another thing. And I was looking at the Mississippi River Valley. I'm like, you know what? Wait a second here. What if, massive what if Tornado Alley and the Mississippi Valley, no rhyme intended, were connected? And I looked at tornado maps across the United States. Yes, there are some outliers, but most of them form in the Mississippi Valley. And sure enough, I look it up. Like, I'll like look into it, and then after I make my hypothesis, I'll look it up. Like, I'll look up what I'm thinking to like see if I'm right or wrong. I was right. There is a connection. Because if you guys don't know, the Mississippi Valley, and I know I just talk about random shit on my channel. Mississippi Valley, if you live in Illinois, Missouri, Ohio, Mississippi, if you live like anywhere like in Mississippi Valley, we're essentially living in a giant bowl. I'm not kidding you. I mean, you can't see it, but we are in a ginormous bowl carved by glaciers over the span of millions of years. And what my hypothesis is that because of this giant bowl, it acts as a mixing ground for convecting cold and hot air. Cold air can just flow on the ground, right? It likes to flow into the depressions. So, giving that data, the cold air from Canada would just flow right down into our valley. But then hot air from Mexico and the Gulf will flow up. This allows the air to convect and to make tornadoes. This is the Mississippi Valley is the best place on Earth to witness a tornado because the stupid ass geography. Okay, let's do this. Canadian penny. Honestly, I'm gonna admit, maybe I'm stupid for saying this. I'm not like an actual recognized scientist, essentially. But I think we could definitely split Tornado Alley into sub-alleys. Like, for example, I'm not trying to be memeing here. I'm not trying to meme here, but like Ohio Valley, which is the Ohio River Valley. Ohio Alley. Yeah, like Missouri Alley, Mississippi Alley. Oh, Wheatie? Yep, it's a Wheatie. 1955 Denver. Wheat penny number 1. Hello, viewer. So yeah, that's my observation, and apparently I was correct. Because the fact that the Mississippi Valley is essentially a ginormous bowl, it acts as a massive convective area for storms like tornadoes. And again, we all know this. If you don't know it, the Mississippi Valley and Tornado Alley is the best spot on Earth for a tornado to form. The geography is absolutely nuts. You got hot, moist air from the Gulf and cold, dry air from Canada in the Arctic Circle. I mean, like, actually perfect. But the most dangerous alley, I think, is actually Bangladesh Alley. There was a tornado that killed 1,000 people there. But the thing is to remember that their infrastructure is not as strong as American infrastructure. That's not me saying that, to down it. It's unfortunately, that's a more rural and more impoverished area of the world. And unfortunately, because of this, tornadoes, they kill more people. There was one that killed 1,000 people in Bangladesh. It's the most deadliest tornado ever recorded. The most dangerous American tornado is the Tri-State that actually this year had a 100-year anniversary, and I actually went to the spot where it hit. I'm sorry I've not released a video. I need to do that. It's backlogged. I went to the spot where the Tri-State actually hit, or one of the spots, which is Murfreesboro, and man, it's just like 200 people were killed there on that single day. 200 people from one town, that's worse than Joplin. The fact that wasn't even half of the deaths. That was barely even a third. But to this day, March 18th, 1925, at I think roughly 2 in the afternoon, is that, there's 2025. That tornado, that is the highest amount of people killed from one tornado in a single town on one day. 200 people on one tornado in one town in one day. That is insane. Again, not even Joplin is that bad. Joplin was 150, which that was extremely detrimental. And the fact that 150 people died from Joplin, and that wasn't even, that was almost 15 years ago. That wasn't that long ago. Tri-State was 100 years ago. That one was less than 15. Ooh, that's an old-ass penny. 1920 Philadelphia. Not a rare penny. I don't know why I was going to say penny and peony at the same time. Peony. It's a weak peony. That would be number 2. Imagine if it was 2 years younger, then it would be a magical 1922. I have yet to get that. I'm not too educated on that one, but I do know that the 1922 is a pretty rare one. There's like Denver ones, but there's not Denver ones, and there's weak strike ones. What should you look for? Buffalo nickels are the biggest thing to look for. They're relatively low common. There's 27.5 billion wheat pennies. There's about 2.3 billion Buffalo nickels. That is a slight double date on there. Not that much. I like to look for Westward Journey nickels. Give me a second, chat. So, like, a Westward Journey nickels of 2004, 2005, they look like that. There's 4 of them to collect, and they're very common. Esmonton nickels are very good. You should definitely write this down, what I'm saying. A really good date for nickels and the Jefferson date is 1950. Either one will do. I think particularly 1950 Denver. 1950 Denver is the rarest Jefferson nickel ever struck, currently to date. Let's see. So let me see if I can validate myself. So 1950. 1952 Denver. 1950 is 9 million, and 1950 Denver is 2.5 million. I have a 1950 Philadelphia. A 1950 Philadelphia is not bad. Also, I do recommend war nickels. They're very easy to identify. They're slightly darker. And if you flip them on the back, they're going to have a letter P, D, or S on the back on the top. The P, D, or S will be located right here. Those are called war nickels, and they are ranged from 1942 to 1955. Or 1945, 1942. Some 1942s, and then all 1943s, 44s, and 45s. Also, I don't know what date it is. I think it's a 19... I don't know. But one of the Buffalo nickels, there is a rare chance that it'll have 3 legs. Also, with Buffalo nickels, they're very, very bad, and it's very hard to find very good, like, quality Buffalo nickels because they made an error by printing the dates and stuff above the rim. So this allowed the dates and the mint marks to unfortunately wear off. So if you find one, I'd say probably anywhere between 50 to 75% of all Buffalo nickels don't have their dates, from my personal experience. So a very good condition Buffalo nickel is a very hard find. I have a couple Buffalo nickels. By the way, there's 2 Buffalo nickels. There's one, the ones from before 1938, and the ones in 2005. You'll notice because the old ones are very obvious, they face the left, and the new ones, they'll face the right. Every single roll of nickels contains 40 nickels as opposed to a roll containing 50 pennies. It's the exact same with quarters. Quarters and nickels contain 40 coins per roll, and for pennies and dimes, it's 50. Also, another one is 2020W. Those weren't publicly released, like in terms of like releasing the circulation, but they were proof coins that probably have a good chance to leak into circulation from people just ripping open briefcases. The most common Jefferson nickel is the 1964. You're gonna find at least like 100 of those in your box. Iron New Box 2020. Huh. I don't remember seeing a ton of 2024 nickels. 2025 nickels, I don't have them. I haven't searched the nickel box in probably over at least a year or so. I do other boxes, but you know, the only reason I don't do it is because if I did another box daily, I'd lose like $10 a day, and I make $15 an hour. So it's so no, thank you. They got a car payment to pay off. There's no way. Also proofs. I've also found a double die nickel, like fat letters on the top, on the front or obverse. Buffalo nickels are a little bit uncommon. I'd say you could get anywhere between 1 to 3 Buffalo nickels for a box, and for war nickels, you might find 1 or 2. That's from my experience. Yeah. So again, I can definitely recommend you to pull the war nickels. The war nickels and the Buffalo nickels are my best ones. If you are very, very lucky, you can find a V nickel. I got very lucky and I found a V nickel. And a V nickel was made, I think, before 1913. Or they were struck 1912 and before. Although 5 copies of the 1913 V nickel were struck, and they are all surviving. 2 of them are in public museums, and 3 are held by private collectors. So apparently this guy, I don't know his name, but this guy was named Mr. Brown. He showed up to a numismatic convention in the 1910s. He showed that he had government records of the 1913 V nickels. Actually, no. He showed up with 5 of them. He had 5. And he showed the records from the government, and there was no records of a 1913 V nickel. Because the 1912 to 1938, 1913? Give me a second. We should have 2 wheat pennies. We do have 2. We are 10 rolls in. Let's keep going. So anyway, there's a wheat penny. 1944 Denver. Very common. But 1912 to 1913 was a transitional year for a nickel because that's when it went from the V design to the Buffalo nickel design. And from 1938 was a transitional year from the Buffalo nickel to the Jefferson nickel that we have today. In fact, also, I'm sorry for getting ahead of myself. Definitely look for 1938, especially the Denver or San Francisco varieties. They're not really rare, but they're definitely a little bit scarce. There's a Witty. At least compared to others. So again, they're not very valuable, but a 38S or a 38 Denver is pretty scarce. I think I only got like 1 or 2 of each. I know I have all the mint marks for nickels. I like to save every 1938 nickel I find. They're not extremely rare, but nonetheless, they are pretty, I just don't see them that much. So again, 38s. I just love old nickels, honestly. I just like older stuff. Witty. Oh, Witty. Oops. But please, ask questions if you want. I think I might have gotten one of your boxes, dude. Can't think of anything I could find. Again, nickels aren't that bad. Canadian penny. I found 3 Indian heads and pennies. So far, I'm hoping I can find a V nickel, too. That'd be great. Yeah, I've only found 1, but they're very, very uncommon. I will give you hope. I found this V nickel from a bag, which usually you get less luck from bags. Although, it's good to note that bags are always double the boxes. So, you bought a nickel box, and that would have cost you $100, which is a lot. It costs $200 for a bag. Now, honestly, the bags, again, are bad luck. Plus, they don't give them out anymore. That's probably because of me. They changed company policy. They do not let people get bags of coins anymore. There's another wheat penny touching a Canadian penny. That's awesome. That Canadian penny is super excellent. 1949 Philadelphia. That's a 49 Denver. 1949 Denver, and that would be number 4. You know, okay, I have to pause here for a second, chat. Hey, buddy! Are these yours? Are those yours? No. Huh, interesting. How often do you search a box? Damn, you do one a day? Then yeah, you're getting hella Wheaties. It's interesting. You must be contributing to the amount I have, the reduction I have. I always go there and they're out. Like, for example, I never get them. I barely get them from the university branch. I will say, if you're gonna ask me when do they resupply, well, guess what? I'll tell you this: it's random. I can't. Bank resupplies are always randomized to increase security. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. However, I can tell you this: is that I've kind of seen them more often at the end of months, and the end or beginning of months, and they roughly come in. There's another wheat penny. They roughly resupply every 2 weeks, from my experience. That's another 1949 Philadelphia. And that will be number 5, wheat penny number 5. Even if I did know their schedule, I would definitely not be leaking it onto YouTube. Not because of competition, I just don't want to get them robbed. Honestly, from what I've seen, is that a bank can hold anywhere between, what I've had experience is that they can hold anywhere between 5 to 20 boxes at a time. Again, like the one in Champaign, I saw they had 20. They told me they had 20. And ones in, like one in Indiana, they had 5. Oh, there's a 55 Denver just staring me up in the face. Wheat penny number 6. That would be a 55 Denver, of course, what I just said. I will say, I will warn you, one a day from currently Champaign is definitely where you want to not go beyond. No, it's not me. Also, it could happen to both of us. One a day is very, very good, in my opinion. It'll take you an average, probably, I'd take a person like you and me, probably average of an hour per box. If you lock in, you can get an hour per box. If you're only doing wheat pennies, you could probably shred a box in like 45 minutes to half an hour. You're definitely doing good. Oh, there's a wheat penny hiding under there. 1953S. Aw. That is wheat penny number 7. Oh, man, if I was 2 years younger, man, I tell you. Because I need a 55S. Oh, 9. I remember my first 2 boxes ever. I got 19 in total. Oh, that's fun. Do you search with your family? Because if you do, that's really fun. If you have grandparents, definitely start bumping elbows with them. There's a good chance that grandparents have a lot of coinage. Even if they... And I'm not saying do that to get... Oh, there's no 9. Not saying do that to get them to give it to you. But trust me, I went to my grandpa. He's got a ton of Morgans. But not even counting the wheat pennies that my dad bought for me, My, like if you literally remove all the wheat pennies that were bought, the ones I found, like, again, purely found, is roughly 9 times higher than one of my grandma's collections, and at least, I would say, 12 times higher than my grandpa's. 1750. However, to give my grandpa the benefit of the doubt, his brother stole his wheat pennies and spent them, and then my grandma's collection is only a fragment of what it is because they got their wheat pennies robbed in a robbery. Which is why I have considered, even though I live... oh, there's another wheat penny. 1944 Denver again. Maybe wheat penny number 8. We're getting a lot from this, like, group of 10 rolls. That's why when I get my pennies, I'm going to store them. Like, if I ever have my house built, I will have them constantly surveyed. The entrance will be very guarded, perhaps all the way up to bulletproof glass, and they'll be stored in a safe, anchored to the ground. If I anchor a safe to the ground, the only thing that will be able to rip it up is the strongest of ES5 tornadoes in terms of, like, weather. So I plan on securing my stash of wheat pennies very, very heavily. And now I just take the boxes to my room and search. Yeah, find a video and watch it and listen to it in the background or get music. It is such a nice time. Even though I love video gaming, it's a great break from the screens. Okay, we're 20 rolls in. We should have only 4 wheat pennies. We got 8. Wow, we are accelerating. Imagine we find one right here. Ooh, that was close. That was 1959. I will say, one of the biggest advantages to my numismatic is it takes a lot more time, but I actually manage data. When I search a box, how it works, right? When I get a box, it immediately is brought in, and I write a number on it. Every single time I buy a box, they are placed in what I call the queue. You probably already know this. Oh, there's another wheat penny. 1945 Philly. And if this little guy was 2 years older, I could buy a house. That would be number 9. Oh, I was going to say, oh yeah, my data keeping. If you keep data, like, for example, write the dates, like, get on a Google spreadsheet, it's essentially, as long as you have internet connection, which you do, you can watch me, it's essentially free. There's an S there. You can just, there's no 9. It is a really nice way to categorize my wheat pennies. It's 70 But I know what I was saying. When I buy a box, it gets placed with a number on it, and it gets a queue. Now, the number right there, like, for example, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then when I put the numbers on them, like, for example, this one's box 191, it will actually get the number, and numbers will be... I'm going through all of them to make sure the dates. Yeah. Also, by the way, a big tip is you need to have a scale, because a scale is needed to separate the 82s. However, I will give you a big... there's a Canadian penny. However, I will say most 1982s I come across are coppers. But there are a good small amounts of them. Hey, also 82s. 1982 small date, copper. 1982 Denver small date copper. Denver has denied ever making them, but people have found a couple. If you give me a second, I'll find some small dates and some large dates. There's a good... I will say, with the large dates, the numbers are usually more bold and fatter and larger, whereas the small dates are very skinny. Like, if you look at a shield penny, the date's skinny, but if you go look at a wheat penny, the date is just bold. Let me see if I can get one. If you got an electronic microscope, you will be in very good luck. By the way, fun fact, in 1982 is the most common year of penny. In 1982, both mints struck 10 billion pennies combined. To this day, no year has ever seen more pennies ever struck. I bought a scale for $10 off Amazon. It works great, even though the large coin, it's a little bit inaccurate. I mean, it's for the wheat pennies. It's a like this one right here could probably cost me like $10 or $20. It's a very cheap scale. All you got, I mean, if it hits the double decimal place, then you're good because the difference between a copper and a zinc penny is 0.61 grams. However, sometimes pennies will weigh a little bit more or less, depending on if a little bit is taken out of them. There's a shiny 59. Depends on if there's like garbage deposited on it, like gum or slime or goop. Or if like they're zinc pennies, sometimes they lose a lot of their mass. Yeah, today we're going to most likely drop a copper bucket. This will be the last day of copper bucket number 4. And here's a great thing. I found a really thin... that might be a very thin planchet. I always keep it. Oh, there's a 1952 Denver. Wheat penny number 10. Weird enough, I have actually found wheat pennies that weigh 2.7 grams. That I think is a thin planchet. I don't think it's really valuable, but it's a really interesting error. Oh, here's a small date. Here is the small date. I'll show you how to identify it. Can I get a 1982 there's 17 Philly? Can I get a 1982 small date or a fat date, like a big date? 68, 66. Can I get one? No. 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 There's an 80. 78. No. No, 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 no. Seriously, not one of you are 1982? None of you? We're not seriously gonna... Dang it. Oh, there's one. So we got 1982, right? See how that 2 kind of curves up? Now notice the other 2. The other two go straight. That, like, you can kind of see it, right? So another thing is that the two kind of at the top of the two is flat, but this one is kind of curved. You can see the two kind of curves up a little bit, whereas the two just kind of, or no, this two is more straighter. That one's curved. So left is a large date. If the one to the right is a copper penny, in that case it's not. So boom, it's gone. If that is a large date, or no, if it's a small date, Denver Mint and it's copper, it's very good. I have a whole bag of 1982s and I couldn't find one. Yeah, there you go. Good job. Notice differences. Notice differences. And make mental notes. Estimate. That's a good mentality, how you just notice differences between two of the designs. There's 09. That is a very good mentality to have. Is when you start making mental notices and start looking at noticing differences, that is a very good thing, or a very good skill to have. Haven't gotten the wheat penny for a tad bit. But yeah, when I remember finding like a 1910 sweet penny, and it was very thin. Canadian penny. The reverse is almost entirely blank. Oh yeah, the reverse was blank. Interesting. Before I had a picture. If you have a YouTube account, you could post a picture of the penny. if the 1937 is like normal looking, and then it could have been I don't know, maybe it was struck without a reverse die. My knowledge would tell me. If it was crushed, and it was like, if it's smooth and crushed, then it probably was run over by a train. Because if you actually remember, if you've ever been in middle school, and you ever go to a chemistry class, they'll say, anyway, it's true, copper is a malleable metal. You can bend and contort copper. You can take a penny, and you can bend it in half if it's copper. It'll snap if it's zinc, though. Anyway, today, I don't know why I said today. We got 20 rolls of chef, 6 wheat pennies, we got 10. I don't think we got a wheat penny that group, but hey, keep going. I'm just another topic. That's been, man, so I have 2 ravines on my property. If you've ever played Minecraft before, and you've seen a ravine that's like a giant valley, 17 Philly. Well, we basically have one of those, or we had one of those until it was destroyed on our property. But it wasn't like a straight down ravine. It was like a giant valley. The ravine was destroyed, and the trees were removed to build 2 bodies of water. And this generated a lot of dirt because they ripped up all these trees. And I'm trying to build this tower called METSECT. METSECT. Met, meteorological, sec, security, T, tower. Meteorological security tower. There's a Canadian penny. The goal of this tower would be to have multiple cameras to scan the wide area of my property to make sure nobody was getting there. And also to scan the clouds. I have a very prototype, very infant stage of this project built. And that project is WASP, or there's an 09. WASP, W-O-S-P, or Weather Observation and Security Tower. Simple. It's divided into 2 towers. There's one camera tower, and then we got a little tiny baby weather tower that has my station and a windsock on it. But this new station will incorporate both designs. Now, I was wanting to put it in the front yard, but my mom doesn't want to see it, so I want to put it in the backyard. But the thing is that my backyard divots. The front yard has more elevation than the backyard. So, how can I... Oh, hello, viewers. So, my idea was to take a ton, and I mean an absolute ton of dirt, move it over into a giant mound, what I'm calling the METSECT mound, and build a tower on that, because at my design is a giant 40-foot cube container on its end. Now, people might be saying, oh, that's expensive. How much is a cargo container? Like $10,000, $20,000? Actually, you could pick up a 40-foot, there's no 9, a 40-foot by 8-foot by 8-foot cargo container for $2,000. That's dirt cheap. $2,000 for a container is very, very cheap. And this isn't one of those small, this is a big container. Now, here's the question. Which, by the way, if I get another job, if I get a better job, I can afford this project. But here's an issue. How do you keep a 5-ton metal container that's 40 foot high from tipping over? The foundation part of this is something I'm very, very skeptical on. I might borrow from wind turbines. I mean, hey, wind turbines are hundreds of tons, and they can stay put. How a wind turbine stays up is they put a ton of concrete in the ground, like almost like the bottom of an oil rig, and then they just attach the turbine there, and it will stay. Maybe I could borrow from that. Another really interesting possibility about building this tower on a mound is that I could build anchoring deep into the ground and then just extend that anchoring up into the tower, resulting in what I like to call deep anchoring. Because here's the problem, right? When you build a tower, like, if you ever go in a car, right, stick your hand out the window. Do you feel that? That's air resistance. Now, when you build a giant tower, that's 40 times 8. That... Oh, thanks for the like, friend. Okay. Like, let's see, 8 times 40? 320 square feet of area that the wind can push. Now, imagine the amount of power, like, even like a 50-mile-an-hour gust could push on 1 square foot. Now, what about 320 square foot? And now you're starting to see a problem. If this thing is not anchored, the wind could easily push it over. I may have to start using concrete and I-beams. But you have to be careful because steel will corrode in the ground. There's O9. Concrete. No, I mean, no matter what we're going to do, mounting this tower is going to be a very big, pricey feature. Hello, viewers. Also, my sister wants to live on our property, and we might build a structure for her to live in. So, I might use this tower. I might run internet off of it, and then splice her internet line into my tower. That way, we can reduce the cost of having to build another tower for internet. Also, the thing is, I want my cameras to be physically connected. This means that it will be more expensive to connect them, but I'll get better resolution and they'll be more secure. There'll be more cybersecurity and a direct connection. And I can exploit this by making my tower a node for my sister to split off of for her internet. There's another wheat penny. Oh. 1955. Did we get it? Yes! We got one! Oh my gosh, I've been waiting forever! I have been waiting for so long! Yes! You have no... I mean, I've been waiting to fill these, but this slot right here has been bugging me. Everything's done except for the 55S. I have been waiting for this penny for over a year. Yes! The 55S. It's not even that rare of a wheat penny. It's not rare at all. Like, it's below the 15 million mint mark. But nonetheless, it's not extremely rare. It's the rarest wheat penny probably like past 1940. 1955S. That would be wheat penny number 11. Again, I've been waiting for over a year, probably even like 2 years, just to get that penny. Oh, 9. I filled the 1950s page very, very long ago, and I always noticed that I never do that. Like, I remember once I noticed I didn't have it, and I'd go in my database, and I couldn't turn up any examples, not even ones that I bought. Again, let me remind you, I found wheat pennies that are way older and a bit rarer than that wheat penny right there. Again, not even extremely rare wheat penny, and I'm still happy. 17 Philly. Nope. Wheat penny. 1941 Philly. That would be wheat penny number 12. Again, let me go out for the record, chat. I found a 1930. I have a 1932 Denver, which was minted 13 million times. I have a 1938 Denver, a 35S. I have a 34 Denver, multiple 34 Denvers, by the way. I have a 1928S, all of which, or at least most of which, are rarer than the wheat penny I just found. And I have multiple copies of those, even not from Lucky Boxes. Again, it's funny how I find a wheat penny that has a mintage of 13 million that is older first than a 55S, which is like 3 times more common. How that happened, I don't know. How did it take me 4,700 and probably 4,800 some wheat pennies just to get one 55S? Indian head pennies? Oh yeah, look. Found 2 of them like a week, this week actually. I don't find them that often though. That is a 1900 and an 1899 if you're gonna wonder. I've actually probably found about 10 or 15. My grandpa bought me some ones that I didn't find though. I love Indian head pennies. They're amazing. $1903, not bad. The biggest notable ones is the 1908, 1909 S's. You know what's weird I've noticed is that like Philadelphia for the longest time only minted like you know, you had like quarters, they were minted from every mint mark, or half dimes what they were known as a time, they were all made from multiple branches, but pennies and 1 cent pieces were only made from like Philadelphia until like 1906. All right, we are 40 rolls in. We should have 8 wheat pennies, and we got 12 of them. Doing very good. Ooh, I thought I found a 50, but that was an 80. Trick of the light. Estimate. Might be approved. Yeah, we're doing pretty good here. In terms of like, again, the reason I'm so excited over that penny is that like, there's 4 pages, and then that right there will be the first time I'll ever complete 1 page. My grandpa has one, but I'm like, you know what? Even though my grandpa, even though, like, he has one, I'm like, I don't have that one. He's like, you want to take it? And you know what I said? I said, you know what? I want to find it myself. It's like Mount Everest. You could take a helicopter to the top of Mount Everest. It's cool that you're on Mount Everest, but you didn't climb it. No. You didn't do anything, really. Yeah, you may have to pay to get to the helicopter or whatever, but that's not as fun, and it doesn't bring as much, pride to yourself as saying, oh, I climbed Mount Everest. Hot take. People say Mount Everest is hard. You know what's harder than Mount Everest? Mount Denali. Mount Denali, you have to climb an extra, 8,000 feet or so? 2,000 to 8,000 feet. Because Mount Denali is taller from base to tip. Everest is the tallest from sea level to tip. But it's not the tallest from base to top, if you guys get where I'm going. In fact, there's a face of Mount Denali, if I'm not wrong, where it drops 10,000 feet. Just straight up flat drop off of Mount Denali. And plus, it's harder because Mount Everest, you have people that can help you on Mount Everest. On Mount Denali, hello viewer, Mount Denali, there is no help. There's a wheat penny. 1950 Denver. Wheat penny number 13. You can pay people on... Oh, there's another wheat penny. Let's go. That is a 1944 Denver. Another one. Wheat penny number 14. On Mount Everest, you can... Oh, 9. On Mount Everest, you can pay people to kind of help you transport your cargo. That doesn't happen on Mount Denali. First of all, if I'm not wrong, you have to hike 10 miles to Mount Denali. To the base. And that's the closest you can get from a road is 10 miles. And then you have to start going up it. And there's barely anybody that can help you with it. There's no, to my knowledge, there's no Mount Denali tours. There could be. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and I take that back. But if you go above 8,000 meters, you will suffocate. You'll just slowly die. The death zone. The portion of the atmosphere. Hello, viewer. I'm nerding out, by the way. 8,000 foot up. If you go 8,000 foot up and you just don't, adapt, you will just slowly die from oxygen deprivation. It's called the death zone. And again, if I'm not wrong, it's usually located 8,000 foot up. Only a couple mountains go beyond the 8,000 meters above sea level. But that brings me to another thing is, one of the hardest clubs or groups to join is the Seven Summit Club. To join the Seven Summit Club, you have to ascend the 7 highest mountains on all 7 continents. That is right. You have to go to Antarctica. You have to go to Asia. You have to go to Europe, North America, South America, and Africa. All 7 continents. And climb the 7 highest mountains. I'm pretty sure Denali in America is our largest mountain. It is the highest point in North America. In Asia, that would be, of course, Mount Everest. I think for South America, it's located in the southwestern portion of the continent. Africa, I think it's the more southern part. But yeah, you heard me right. It is probably one of the hardest clubs to join. Hello, viewer. Very difficult to get into this club. You have to ascend all 7 of the tallest mountains on all 7 continents. Again, including not Africa. You have to go on. There's Esmond. Yeah, you have to go on Africa, but you have to go to Antarctica and ascend the highest mountain there. Talk about insane join requirements. honestly, I almost feel comfortable saying that it'd probably be easier to become an astronaut than to join the Seven Summit Club. You're probably putting in less effort. Yeah. Now, me personally, I've only summited one mountain, and that's only because I drove. And that was in June of 2023 when I summited or rode up to the summit of Mount Spokane. It's very easy. You can just drive up there. And I think, in my opinion, me summiting or going onto the summit of Mount Spokane might be the highest I've ever been at ground level. Not including, like, airplanes, but, like, touching ground, probably the highest altitude I've ever gotten to. And let me tell you, like, how tall is Mount Spokane? Spokane. Because I know when I'm in Illinois, and I'm living currently on, like, 750-foot elevation, Mount Spokane is 5,800 feet. That's roughly a mile. Now, let me tell you, a mile up, it is windy and extremely cold and brutal. This isn't June, by the way. June is supposed to be hot. And Mount Spokane was very cold. It was brutal. If you go up to anything, if you go to a mountain, do not wear shorts. I learned that the hard way. Actually, wait, I didn't wear shorts. I was wrong, because I remember when I went to, hello, viewer. I remember when I went to California, and I never wore shorts there. It was June, right? It wasn't even that hot in June when I went. Last roll. But yeah, again, at the top of Mount Spokane was very windy and very cold. It got so cold, I had to seek shelter in, like, so windy and cold, I had to seek shelter in an outhouse. That's man. Oh, 09. Alright, we are done. Okay. How tall is Mount Everest? Like 28,000 feet? Mount Everest is 29,000 foot. 29,082 foot. High up from sea level. If you took my height, which is 750, man, if you took my height, that's 38 times high. That is, I can't even comprehend that. 29,032 divided by Mount Spokane's height. Mount Everest is almost 5 times taller, 4.93 times taller. If what I experience on Mount Everest is that bad, I don't want to imagine 5 times how brutal it is. And here's the thing, right? If you die on Mount Everest and you go so far up, your ass is not coming down. Your ass is going to become a landmarker. There's a man who had green boots and he died, and it's so cold up there that the bodies, and I might be getting TMI right now, right? They don't decay. They stay there forever. And there's so many colorful like dressings, like to like boots and like coats, that there's like a thing called like the Rainbow Valley or something on Mount Everest. And these people that die, they essentially become landmarkers. Like the guy with green boots, the landmarker is now called Green Boots. There's a photo, but I don't think I can show it on YouTube. It's not like bloody or gory, but you can obviously see a guy who has passed, and he does have green spiked boots, and he's got a blue pants and a red coat. It was moved in 2014. He died in 1996, and he stayed there until 2014. That is nuts, in my opinion. Can you imagine dying and becoming an actual landmark? And not in a good way? Honestly, the reason why people die on Mount Everest as opposed to other mountains is because it's the mountain most traveled. A lot of people go to Everest. So to a certain degree, the only reason it's the deadliest mountain is because the amount of people that go there. Like a neighboring mountain called K2 is more dangerous to travel on than Mount Everest. Wheat pennies, we got 14 of those. Bicentennials. 13 of those. 17 Phillies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of those. S-mints, we got 6 of those. We got 3 Witties and 6 Canadian pennies. No Indian heads. Let's get this copper, and we might fill a copper box this stream. We might fill, and that box is probably not going to be used. 551. Whew. Oh yeah, we're definitely full. Look at that. That's definitely $250. Alright. Alright. Maybe we could fill the bucket. I might fill the bucket tomorrow. Because I got to go to work, and I want to do some things before I do go to work. Plus, there is a group of appraisers coming to our house to kind of evaluate the value. So they're going to have to come down here, and I don't want them to interrupt the stream. So yeah, we're going to fill the copper bucket tomorrow after we do the next penny box. So yeah, see ya.